All right, I'm sorry, guys. I had to step away to try to find a hammer that was big enough to hit myself in the head to stop the pain, and it really hasn't stopped. Getting into this bill. So the psychological training, they have to interview your exes again. Like, that's a real great idea. Let me find this. All right, denial of a license. This is where they can deny you your rights to own a firearm at all, ever, period. This gets back into the psych evals and the results of the psych evals here in a little bit. And there's actually some actual more medical exams, not just psychological exams, mentioned in this. Denial of license. Okay, this is the AG is required to deny a license if the person is a prohibited person already. So felons, domestic abusers, stuff like that, they're already denied from owning firearms in the first place. It's already in law. It's already enshrined in law. Why is it even written here? All right. Like a felon is suddenly going to want to register their firearms and ask for a license in the first place. This lady is incapable of rational thought. Getting on to the next part of this bill, and I'm tired and I'm trying to get through it, but I want you guys to see this stuff. Let me flip down more to the text of the bill instead of my license, because I want to look at this a little bit more in depth. And there's some things that I kind of shorthanded in what I was writing that I really want to look at in the actual text of the bill. All right, get back. Required information, database, and general access requirements, general license. So she's talking about a general license when we're talking about the over 21, all that. These were a couple things that I kind of, these bills are so insane. You got to bounce through a few different places. All right, back to the psychological evaluation. You have to this was another thing with the requirements for this. All right, successfully complete a training course certified by the Attorney General in the use, safety, and storage that includes 24 hours of training on firearms. Then you have to demonstrate on issuance of the license, the individual will have insurance. That's another thing they bounce to, that you have to bounce back around because they're idiots. So you actually have to have insurance. The insurance, and we'll look at it in this bill, has to be purchased through the Attorney General, and it's $800 a damn year to own the firearm. Like, that's not going to price low-income people out of the market of actually being able to protect themselves. I'm telling you, it's absolutely insane. That's for the general license. All right. Then she has an antique firearms display license. So if I put an old firearm on the wall that's probably not even useful, I have to have a license just for that. The Attorney General shall issue shall issue to an individual a license to display an antique firearm in a residence of the individual if the individual is a holder of a license issued under paragraph A, which is your general firearms owner's license, supplies proof that the individual owns an antique firearm. So again, you have to show them proof of that firearm and that it is an antique. Describe the manner in which the firearm will be displayed in accordance with regulations prescribed by the Attorney General, and certify that the firearm will be so displayed, and demonstrate that the individual has provided for storage of the firearm in a safe or facility approved by the Attorney General for the storage of firearms. Oh, God. I don't know why I do this to myself. This shit is painful. Okay, you have a military style weapons license. Your assault weapons. So you have to get a whole nother license on top of your general license to be able to own anything that looks like, I don't know, this. This is a separate license on top of the other license. Military style weapons license. The Attorney General shall issue to an individual a license to own and possess military style weapons if the individual is the holder of the license issued under subparagraph A. That's the one all the way at the top. After applying for the license under the subparagraph, successfully completes a training course certified by the Attorney General, like that couldn't go wrong, in the use, safety, storage of the weapon. That includes a 24-hour training course, or 24 hours of training and live fire trainings. Last time I looked, live fire training, 24 hours worth. That's a few $100s through a reputable trainer, on top of the $800 worth of insurance that you're going to have to pay for. Again, we're getting to the point where only people who have the money will be able to own these things. That's on top of the cost of the gun. But hey, they're looking out for you. Alright, went through military. Alright, this was the psychological evaluation stuff. Evaluation conducted in compliance, established by the Attorney General. Deemed necessary. They have to interview everybody you've ever been connected with, exes and all that. Denial of license. This is where I was trying to go before, and I completely boneheaded on part of that subsection. The Attorney General shall deny a license if the individual, one, is a prohibited person, which I don't agree with all the prohibited persons that they have in the first place, or the individual has been hospitalized, going into the next section, with a mental illness, disturbance, or diagnosis, including depression, homicidal ideation, suicidal ideation, attempted suicide, or addiction to controlled substance, as mentioned in the Controlled Substance Act, or alcohol, or a brain disease, including dementia or Alzheimer's. So to break this down, and you could be hospitalized because you were having certain thoughts, you're in a bad time in your life, you decided to check into an institution to get your health right. So you went from a bad place in your life, went to the institution, now you're again a healthy individual. You will be denied from owning a firearm because that hospitalization. You could have been involved in a substance abuse issue. You go to AA for drugs or alcohol. Guess what? You might be sober now. You might be straight now. You can't get a firearm because you have had a substance abuse issue. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, you name it. A brain disease. So you could be having issues where it's a trauma to your brain. It's causing some defects in your brain. You can't get a firearms license. If you are showing any signs of dementia or early onset Alzheimer's. So, yes, later on in your life, it sucks, man. You could be dealing with some serious issues from a very serious illness, Alzheimer's. But you're in early stages. You're just to the point where it's manageable. You still have your damn faculties when you manage things. At the least onset of that, they want to take your firearms rights away from you. All right. And this is another one. This is section II after the I section here. Or you could lose it on account of conduct that endangers yourself or others. You got to realize where these people are going. That's basically speeding or bad driving because you are endangering yourself or others. You lose your firearms rights. All right, next step. This is the authorized. The Attorney General shall deny such a license to an individual if the psychological evaluation referred to in paragraph 2, which is where they interview you, your dog, your exes, anybody you've been involved with, indicates that the individual has a chronic mental illness or disturbance. So someone says that you had issues with depression. Maybe you had to take something like, I don't know, Xanax for stress, Wellbutrin, any number of different things. Well, you can't have a firearm. Indicates that the individual has a chronic mental illness or disturbance, a brain disease referred to in subparagraph A, addicted to a controlled substance or alcohol. Someone could simply say that, hey, this guy drinks a little too much, or hey, this guy likes weed. No firearms for you, which the weed already now is kind of that way, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. Has attempted to commit suicide. This is III. In other words, if you've ever had an issue like that, then you are no longer worthy of being able to have a weapon for your self-defense. If it's an issue you had years ago, you got over it. You got mental health, you got well, you are still screwed. According to Miss Shelia Jackson, she can eat a bag of D's Lee. And yeah, I'm getting more and more frustrated. You should be too at this point. If you're hanging out for this long in the video, you should be looking at congress.gov and actually reading these bills for yourself. Unless you just like to see my dumb ass ramble on about stuff. Let's see. Has attempted to commit suicide, hit that. Or you have prior psychological treatment or evaluation of the individual indicated that the individual engaged in conduct that posed a danger to self or others. That's your teenage years. Period. You're gonna do dumb shit. You live through it, you grow up, you become an adult. This shit's maddening. This is designed to completely strip you of your rights. Completely. All right, this gets into suspension of licenses. Even if you make it all the way through all their hoops, their dog and pony shows, you make it past their government-employed psychologists. This is getting into section A, or A of section number 4. A license issued under this subsection to an individual who is under indictment for a crime punishable by a term exceeding 1 year is hereby suspended. Now, I argue with this unbelievably strongly because you can indict anybody for a crime that is punishable by over 1 year. Indictment is not conviction. If you are convicted of a crime, then the government has the right to actually step in, and has a responsibility in some cases, to step in and remove certain rights and freedoms from you. If that's putting you in prison, stuff like that. But that is if you are convicted of a crime. You can be indicted for anything. All right. Good Lord. This stuff is insane. All right. This bounces back, and this... Let me get that back. Dear Lord, I done lost my place again. You guys have to excuse me, because... Psychological eval, authorized, suspension of license. All right. And I hate the way they write these things, because we already talked about how they could, in general, suspend your license. All right. And then this bounces into the insurance, which should be in the approval of the license, not in the revocation of the license. So this is part B of this. The suspension of your license is authorized for lack of firearms insurance. The Attorney General may suspend a license issued under this subsection to an individual who has violated Section 922DD, which is further on in this bill, in the most recent 12-month period. Now, just to tell you about DD, and we'll get into it, that has to do with high-capacity magazines and ammunition over 50 caliber. It doesn't mention what type of ammunition, but ammunition over 50 caliber. Revocation of a license. A license issued under this subsection to an individual who is or becomes prohibited by federal or state law from possessing a firearm hereby revoked, such an individual shall immediately return the license and surrender all firearms and ammunition owned or possessed by the individual to the Attorney General. So they take my license away and I have to give all my property to the government so they can destroy it. Yeah, good luck with that. Bring friends. The expiration of a license. A license issued under to an individual under this section shall expire in the case of a license that has been in effect for less than 5 years, 1 year after issuance or renewal, as the case may be. So this license won't last more than 5 years. You'll have to renew this every couple of years, basically. In the case of a license that's been in effect for at least 5 years, 3 years after the most recent date of the license is renewed, or license has to be renewed. So under this section, what it's telling you is this is a 3-year license. Renewal of the license. The Attorney General shall renew license issued to an individual under subsection if the individual requests the renewal by the end of the 60-day period that begins with the date of the license expires. And the 3-year period ending with the date of the renewal is requested. So it's a 3-year license. You have to renew it within 60 days of that 3-year period. You have to meet requirements in paragraph 1, A of paragraph 1, II and II. You have to successfully complete a training course certified by the Attorney General in the use, safety, storage, which includes 8 hours of training this time. So now every 3 years, you only have to complete 8 hours of training versus 24 hours of training that you have to do for your initial license. In the case of a license issued under paragraph C1, in the 2-year period, this is for basically the assault weapon stuff, the military style, that's a 2-year license. You have to successfully complete the training course certified by the Attorney General. This is another 8-hour course, and the use of the weapon subject to the license. Firearms insurance, which this mentions way before this, but now we get down into it. And I can't remember where I edited the other part of this that kind of streamlined this. So the firearms insurance. In general, the Attorney General shall issue to any person who has applied for a license pursuant to subsection C, which is all the way back up there. You have to pay the Attorney General the fee specified in paragraph 2, which is the $800 fee that's specified right here. Paragraph 2, the policy that insures the person against liability for losses and damages resulting from the use of any firearm by a person during the 1-year period that begins with the date of the policy issued. So every year you have to pay the Attorney General $800 to be able to own your firearms. You miss that payment, all your shit's revoked. They take all your guns. Okay. This gets into military weapons defined. This goes into definition sections of the law, which is section 922A. That's all of your definitions for what firearms are. And then she adds in section 30 inside section 921. She defines the term military style assault weapon. She gets into any firearm copy, duplicate, also known as, and she goes through Norinco, any kind of AR, Berettas, Uzis, Galils, any kind of pattern of semi-automatic rifle that accepts box magazines, helical magazines, belts, you name it, everything's mentioned in there. Kalashnikov, all of it is considered the whole military style assault or military style weapon in her case. Oh, make the pain stop. Let's get back to my notes. Let's see. Because I had a couple other points written in here that I wanted to get to. Addicted to controlled substance. And one of the things about the controlled substances, man, a lot of people, hell, myself included, you're on long-term pain management. You actually become physically dependent on whatever pills you're taking to manage that condition. And from that, you would no longer be allowed to own firearms, even though you're no danger to anybody. This was getting into some of the mental health stuff. Yeah, here it is. I wrote, so if you've ever had an issue with mental health, you are forever effed. I abbreviated that, just so you know there. Oh, God. That was in suspension of licenses, and my notes right there are probably a little too rough to read on YouTube. Getting into the 922D that she was talking about. 922D1 refers to ammunition over 50 caliber. She doesn't mention that that is a case ammunition, regular 50 caliber B&G ammunition. It doesn't mention whether it's 50 Beowulf, any of that. Anything larger than that is punishable. And we'll get into the punishment. It's basically like 10 years. And hold on. Here we go. We'll flip down here to penalties just for this real fast. Anybody who violates Section 922DD1, which we're talking about the size of the ammo, is fined $50,000 to $100,000 and does 10 to 20 years in prison or both. She doesn't say whether that's 50 caliber or black powder ammunition. There are plenty of guns that use something that's a little bit bigger than 50 cal. And apparently if you have that, if they mic it out and it's over 50 cal, well, you're doing 10 to 20 years in prison and you're paying $50,000 to $100,000 in fines. They get into the definition. I went through that. They actually define what a large capacity magazine is. So they get into section 921A of the definitions. The other one was for a high capacity what they call a high capacity magazine. That's another couple $100,000 fine for having a magazine that holds, or another couple of $1,000, $15,000, $20,000 fine for having a high capacity magazine, and that's another at least decade in prison for having a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. Oh God, please make the pain stop. Why in the hell do people vote for these jackasses? I'm sorry guys, man. I love you guys. I know most of y'all are cool. I'm done. I'm going to have to combine these videos. I'm going to see about posting them shortly. And one of these days I'll see about getting cool and posting little things in the videos themselves. But y'all be cool. Stay safe. And for the love of God, please start watching these guys. Later.